Hi all, welcome back to another session on web methods. So in this, I'll be talking about the MQ adapter in web methods. So let's see what is MQ adapter in web methods. So why do we use, in which cases we use this MQ adapter? So WebSphere MQ is provided by the IBM WebSphere. So IBM WebSphere MQ enables integration server to exchange information with other systems through an IBM WebSphere messaging queue. So this capability will let you route documents or any piece of information from integration to different systems that use WebSphere MQ as their information interface. So if you consider, for example, we'll be using MQ adapter to extract information for we can take the XML XML based purchase order. So we can repackage it as so you will receive this as XML based message, and you convert that into the, like, you subscribe that message based on the MQ adapter connections, and then do the conversion to the required formats as per your need, and then send the details and do your respective business processing in these cases. So what are the components, like what will be the overall queue concepts present in MQ is, one is queuing, one is messaging, and the other is the queue manager. So queuing is nothing but a programmable technique. In general, it is helpful in exchanging data asynchronously. So here we don't call these each other system. Instead, we use these MQs to send the data. So generally, they send the messages via queues. So you place the message in queue, and that will be picked up. It's similar to like inbox messages. You send some email to a person, so that guy will the message will be deposited inside the inbox of that particular guy, and then he reads from the message. And similarly, if he wants to send, he will send the message to the other guy's queue. So it's like when one piece of one program wants other program to process a piece of information, so it generally puts the information into other person's queue. So they generally monitor this queue and process the message that other programs deposit in it. So, and it is governed by a queue manager. As the name suggests, queue manager is generally an intermediary between the programs that wanted to exchange information. So it functions as a server controlling the information of inflow of information between the uh, set of queues there. So queues generally reside on the queue manager, and you can associate multiple queues with um the one queue manager. So generally, the queue manager does not actively process or distribute the message it receives. Its role is simply accept messages and hold them in the appropriate queue until a client specifically requests them. So in this, the programs that generally wants to communicate with each other, right? They act as the queue manager clients. So these programs do not interact directly, but they are considered peers of one another. Yeah. And lastly, it is messages. So messages is a discrete unit of information that one program wants to pass to another. It functions as a server controlling the flow of information in and out of queues. So generally, as I said previously, queues reside on a queue manager, and you can associate multiple queues with one manager queue. So if we take in real terms, right, it's like a string containing a purchase order, or a binary data structure containing an employee record, or a blob record containing a graphical image. So whenever a program puts a message into a queue, what happens is the client envelope or the generally it wraps the message with the information such as routing information, priority codes, and message type. So it can represent the entire message structure, that is the control information, or some unit of information. You can call it as payload or header data or body and all those things. They generally say it comes under messages. Yeah. So this is how the MQ architecture looks like. Yeah. So in this, the web methods, it is installed on the integration server as WMMQ adapter package. So for that to happen, it leverages the adapter concepts in this. So indirectly, it uses the WMArt package for the adapter service templates and all. So, and as I said, like it runs on the integration server, and the art package provides the common framework for a web methods product. I mean, yeah, and that uses the adapters. So adapters, as I said, adapters. So this will use the libraries related to MQ and all those things. So we'll be using some jar files to import to have the MQ adapter connectivity, and we will also have adapter connection templates and adapter listener templates and notification templates similar to the JDBC adapters, right? MQ adapters will also have these listener notifications and connection templates and all those things. So adapter listener templates is generally monitors the queues or messages, or and whenever a event is occurred, it routes those messages to using the adapter notifications, and the adapter notification will have a trigger, subscription trigger, which will wait for the listener events to happen, and then they subscribe the events and send the do the request processing. Let's say if someone wants to get the information, they use the get adapter, get queue. You can say get MQ adapter and get the details and all those things. So these are the different types of adapter services present. One is get service. Yeah. So in this, what happens is, so the get service will use to get the retrieve the messages from an MQ. So it creates an output document that contains the properties of the payload. So you specify the output signatures, like which become the output document and all. Yeah. So in this, in the get adapter, what we'll be using is like the integration server or client. Uh, they will invoke the integration server. So whenever the let's say if someone wants to get the data, so they'll use the get service to invoke the adapter. So we'll be using the get adapter, in this case get adapter service template, and that uses the connection pool to get the connection from the connection pool and perform the required operators. So it uses the values from the input signature and all those things. Yeah. And you can pass those details inside the MQMD header in the adapter service input signature. And the get service retrieves the message from the WebSphere MQ, and it provides the details retrieved in the MQMD properties or the JMS properties and the payload. So it will return the MQMD header, some JMS properties and reason code, condition, and the message body. So other adapter services, the put. So generally put is used. It creates an message MQMQ object, MQ message object from the input signature properties. They become the input documents. So you specify the input signature properties when you configure the put service. So generally put service is used to place the message on the WebSphere MQ. So if you see here in this, so web methods, a flow or Java service, generally it's typically invoked by an integration server client that will generally initiate the um, put service on the integration server. So you can wrap this put service adapter inside a flow service or Java service using the designer. And so when the put service is invoked, it gets a connection from the connection pool, and then it puts the message inside the queue. Yeah. So in the IBM WebSphere MQ manager, right? MQ server, it puts the message on the queue. It is generally used for putting the message on the queues. So for that, the input signatures will be MQMD header and the payload. Yeah. So it will the put service returns a document that generally contains the message header fields. You will generally define the put service output signature, and when you configure the service, right, you will select the MQMD header and service signature and all those things. And we have another service called peak. So the peak service, right, it is generally used to retrieve a copy of message from the WebSphere MQ. So it contains the MQMD properties and the payload. So all these things here. So as I said, it is similar to yeah. So it is generally invoked by the integration server client, and it initiates the peak service on the integration. So the peak service retrieves whenever it is invoked, right? It is wrapped. Let's say if it is wrapped under the message, like say if it is wrapped under a flow service and all, and when you call a peak service, so the peak service retrieves a connection from the associated connection pool, and it is at runtime it uses the I mean the connection uses the web service client libraries to peak messages at the queue. So the difference between get and peak is like get is used to get the messages, and whereas peak is used to get a copy of the message. So it will contain the message header, JMS properties, reason head, reason code, condition code, error message, and all those things. And you have a request reply, and mostly we will be using the get put peak um, messages kind of architecture in MQ. So request reply is similar, like say you send a request and you expect a response from it. It's kind of a synchronous processing. Yeah. So and you have as we discussed in the previous slides, we have listeners that will listen on the continually monitor the queue for messages. So whenever a message appears on the queue, so the listener fetches the message based on the criteria that you selected when you configure the listener. And whenever a listener comes across a message, so it routes the message, passes the message to the listener notification. So you unlike the put and get after service, you never invoke a listener directly from a service or client. Yeah. Instead, a listener is a real-time process that you configure, enable, and disable using the integration server administrator, where you go to the administrator page and go to MQ adapters and go to listeners, and listener notification, you change it accordingly. So listener notification generally works in conjunction with a listener to filter the messages. So whenever the listener detects a message on the queue, the listener performs a get operation to retrieve the message, and it passes the message to the listener notification. So the listener notification will receive the message, and it performs additional filter on the messages, and it will either process the message synchronously or asynchronously. Yeah. So when you come to asynchronous listener notifications, so it's like it creates a publishable document type. So the publishable document types define the structure of the document that includes the message header and message properties. So when at runtime, when the listener retrieves the message from the queue, so it invokes the asynchronous notification. So asynchronous notifications publish the document that has structure defined by the published document, and it creates asynchronous notification. So generally, it notification to in order to achieve the asynchronous properties, right? So it can publish a notification, publish a document to they'll publish locally to your broker or JMS, or it will you can publish the you can publish it locally to the integration server, and you'll in these cases you will be using the pub sub mechanism to process the message received from MQs. And when and the other type of messages, other type of processing of listener notification is synchronous listener notification. So it generally has this request and reply mechanism. So the synchronous document contains the message body, message header, queue manager name, and queue name properties. The synchronous reply document, right? It contains the reply message and header properties. So at runtime, the listener notification invokes a specific adapter service and passes it to the specified request document. The service returns the reply to the MQ adapter. So the listener notification will generally wait for the service that has finished processing, and and before it is invoking, let's say it will wait for the response until it receives. And the difference between asynchronous and synchronous is synchronous doesn't publish a document to does not do a publish to a document. So synchronous adapter notifications execute the flow service and return values from those services. Yeah. So it generally like say it supports service invoke mode. When this do have two modes. One is service invoke and publish and wait mode. So when this mode is selected, when the pub service invoke mode is selected, the integration adapter notification, it will invoke a flow service directly and returns the values as output from that service. Whereas in publish and wait mode, the adapter notification publish the data to the local integration server or to the JMS or broker connected to the integration server. It will convert the request documents into publishable documents and then wait for the reply. So this mode is generally needed when you are selecting a synchronous adapter notification. So as I said, like there are different notification templates. One is synchronous and asynchronous. Yeah. And for installing this MQ adapter in integration server, we would need a MQ client.jar that needs to be and com.ibm.mq.jar that needs to be there inside the WM MQ adapters. And these are all the different adapters that you need to copy based on the version of uh, what do you say? Yeah, version of MQ you are going to install. Thank you.